Welcome. Today we are going to discuss the evolution of web design. This video will cover the week of January 25th through 29th, and this will also cover Unit 1. As we go through here, you're welcome to take notes and so that you can use it on your quiz. However, most of the information will come out of the units and the information on the units in our class content page. So when we start and we think about the internet, we have to think about this man. His name was Tim Berners-Lee, and he is a British scientist. He was basically known as the father of the World Wide Web. Notice I said World Wide Web and not the internet. The internet was something completely different and how it began, but this man, Tim Berners-Lee, he was the one who was first successful at implementing HTTP, and that was in March of 1989. He is also the director of the World Wide Web Consortium, the W3C, and that's basically an organization that basically develops and interprets and designs laws basically for the internet so that everything works together and to its fullest potential. So we're going to be looking at the way that the World Wide Web kind of arose and what it started and where it is now. So it started, like I said, in 1989, he developed the World Wide Web. In 1990 to 1994, everything was basically based on text. The websites were based on text. They were in columns rather than now we have links and we have we have graphics and all of these different things that interchange. And then it was just basically text. So this would be the first browser in 1990. All right, 1993, notice we have a bit of change. We have colored links here. If you were to click on this, that would take you to the National Center there. It would take you to that page. And then we also have the very first photo ever published on the web, and that was in 1992. It's kind of a funny photo, right? A pop group of, looks like older ladies there. Anyway, that was the first photo ever published. We also have banners, and for us now, in the way that we see and we interpret the internet, the World Wide Web, a banner for this time was quite extravagant. In 1995 to 1997, they started using web-based tables. The tables were used so that things were organized differently and easier to navigate through a website. So tables made it possible to create multiple column websites, and this expanded the text-based model, and it allowed for better content organization and navigation. It also allowed for animated text, scrolling text, GIF images. The GIF images are the kind that like dance across the screen or move. They have movement to them, so that allowed for that. And that was quite an advancement. This is how it would look. All right, so notice here, this is a table. We have one section in the middle. We have two on the sides. We have links throughout, so this was quite advanced. There's one for Google. And here's one for Yahoo. And this just tells you how old I am. I actually remember that layout. So, it's kind of crazy. All right, 1997 to 1999, the rise of Flash. So Flash was a significant advancement. The Flash animation, splash pages featuring company logos bouncing around. There was a lot of color, to the eye it was more interesting. It changed, your links would change color. When you moved your mouse over the top, it would change colors. And this is a significant change here as well. This is 1997. Here's a website. Each of those, contact, our prices, our.network, all of those would be links that you would click on. Same here. This is another Flash website. And one more. This is 1999. So you can see that it's really changing the way everything looks. Then in 2000 and 2005, we have JavaScript. So JavaScript web designers began leaving tables and using more of the division, the divs. It's a division tag in HTML. You may learn a bit about those later, but JavaScript, and that basically a division tag allows you to have a title that changes color based different than the other. Something you'll have to learn later. Also, the JavaScript allowed for navigation bars to begin at the top of the page instead of down the side. You also had drop-down menus, and drop-down menus are that's something we still use. It's very popular. And I don't know if any of you remember, but before the navigation menus went to the top, most of them were listed at the side. A lot of them we still have listed at the side. In 2006 to 2009, the Web 2.0, things really change here. In the late 2000s, web design began to take a turn toward interactive content and web applications. Most of this had to do with the rise of mobile devices and tablets. So significant advancement, interactive content that changes without having to refresh the page. So I don't know, probably you don't remember any of that, but a website would come up, and like now let's say you have live news feeds, and it can change as it goes. Before, you would bring a page up, click through it, use your links, and then you could refresh it, and when you refreshed it, then something new could be on the page. So this was a really big change for the World Wide Web. And then also you had HTML5. So we went from HTML to Flash, and now we're back to a different version of HTML5, which is a code, and we're going to learn a lot of that in our class this quarter. But HTML5 gains mainstream exposure as an efficient alternative to Flash. All right, it offered advanced graphics, video, and application development. And then now you have this war, I guess, between HTML5 and Flash. So 2010 up to now, we have the mobile web, and this is things, again, really changed significantly. The mobile web, with the rise of smartphones, tablets, computers, and this was all driving the popularity of the mobile web. So things had to change again. Before this time, our pages, the design elements changed. Our pages now on the World Wide Web were more of a landscape form, and then they're making mobile web, everything is taller and thinner rather than short and wide. All right, so that's kind of how the World Wide Web began. But we are going to watch a video here in just a second about about the history of the internet. Before we do that, I just want to run over.
This episode of Life Noggin was brought to you by Audible. Hey there, welcome to Life Noggin. Thanks to this wonderful thing called the internet, you are watching this video right now. But how did the internet get to where it is today? There is so much internet history that we couldn't possibly get to everything in this short of a video, so we're definitely going to have to make a second one. Anyway, let's get started. The internet actually got its start over 50 years ago, and computers back then filled up entire rooms. Scientists and researchers used it for years to communicate during the Cold War. It was useful because if one computer went down, the others wouldn't follow. In 1962, a scientist named J.C.R. Licklider proposed the idea of a network of computers that could talk to one another. In 1969, the first ever message was sent from one computer to another over the ARPANET, the government's computer network at the time. ARPANET stands for Advanced Research Projects Agency. One was located in a research lab in UCLA, and the other at Stanford. All the message said was log in, and it didn't fail to crash the network. Stanford only received the first 2 letters of the message, but hey, you gotta start somewhere. By the end of the year, only 4 computers were connected to this network. In 1971, the University of Hawaii's Aloha Net was added, followed by various networks in London and Norway 2 years later. Also happening in 1971, Ray Tomlinson was developing the first system to send mail back and forth between users of ARPANET. This would eventually be called electronic mail, or email for short. The @ symbol was used to tell a person's name and the host name apart. With all of the networks floating around, there needed to be a way for all of the computers on them to communicate with other networks. This is where computer scientist named Vinton Cerf comes in. He invented a way to introduce computers across the globe to each other in a virtual space. This invention was called Transmission Control Protocol, or TCP, which was followed by Internet Protocol, or IP. In the 80s, scientists used Cerf's protocol to send data back and forth, but the 90s is where it really all began. In 1991, a computer programmer named Tim Berners-Lee invented the World Wide Web. This wasn't just a data sharing space for scientists anymore. This was an entire network of information that was accessible to anyone with an internet connection. You're using a browser right now to watch this video, and some of the popular ones are Firefox, Google Chrome, and Safari, but in 1992, Urwise was created. Urwise was an internet browser and the first to have a graphical interface. A few browsers came before and after, but in 1993, Mosaic was created, and it would popularize surfing the web. Mosaic influenced many of the browsers to follow, including Netscape Navigator in 1994. This became the most popular web browser at the time, accounting for 90% of the web usage in 1995. In the early 90s, companies like AOL and CompuServe were starting to provide dial-up internet access. Dial-up is a method of connecting to the internet via a telephone line. Your telephone line was plugged into a modem, and the other end was plugged into the phone jack. There was a period in history where you couldn't use your telephone and the internet at the same time. Without the internet, we obviously wouldn't have things like Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, but way more importantly, we wouldn't be able to access information in seconds. We wouldn't be able to communicate with people from around the world, share ideas, and educate those who might not get a chance elsewhere. Also, without the internet, I'd actually have to talk to someone when I order a pizza, which, by the way, was the first thing ever purchased on the internet. How would your life be different without the internet? Let us know in the comment section below. This episode of Life Noggin is brought to you by Audible. Go to audible.com/lifenoggin to get a 30-day free trial.
Okay, so that is how it all began. And it's crazy to think about, the man saying, at one point in time, you couldn't use the telephone and the computer at the same time. I don't know if any of you remember that time, but I do. Okay, so let's go here to Do This Week. So Do This Week 1.03 about the World Wide Web, and that's Wednesday, January 27th, and 1.04, what is HTML? That's Friday, 129. All assignments are to be uploaded to the Dropbox, and then I know some of you who have handed in some of the assignments in that first unit have had to retype it in Word. If you have any problems with that, let me know. Also, make sure that you hand in your assignments for the week by Sunday night because zeros will be added or entered on Monday morning. And on Monday morning, for everyone who has a 0 for their missing assignments, you'll get an auto dial. So please make sure that you're handing your assignments in on time. Also, for class participation points, we tried to do the exit ticket. It just wasn't working because my links are not live on my MP4. And so what I want you to do is go to this website, www.kahoot, and type in that number. And that number, 372947, is basically a participation quiz. Asks you 3 questions. On this, when you do this, please put your first and last name. Do not use a nickname. In order to get your points, I need to have your actual name and not a nickname. So you'll also be given 5 class participation points for that. So let me know if you guys have any questions. You can K-mail me or call me, text me. I would be happy to help you, and looking forward to a great week. Let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.